So help us understand what were the stepping stone in.
I mean, you could call them as designers. I think problem solvers is something that will get emerged out.
When you need to work on any problem statement which do not have any benchmark, any guidance.
I mean, the closest that we were designing for with a similar-ish use case was the driver app.
Digital experience of the scooter, and second one is the physical experience of the scooter.
Tesla has like a great display. Like interface that a scooter HUD would be having is like, okay, when you press your accelerator, deaccelerate, brake, etc. But there are a lot of different kinds of experiences also that.
From design standpoint, what do you consider as a innovation?
Welcome to another episode. Today I'm excited to host Agni, a former head of design at Ola and a seasoned design leader with a track record of driving innovation across mobility, fintech, and consumer tech. During his time at Ola, Agni built and scaled design team across 6 verticals and been in the forefront of the launch of Ola Cabs in the UK, achieving the highest first day revenue in the company's international expansion history. He also led new initiatives like Ola Financial Service, Foodpanda, Ola Drive, and Ola Electric. Later, as a head of product design at FamPay, he scaled the product to 1 million MTUs, introducing financial tools for kids and building one of India's few subscription-based fintech apps. Additionally, he has collaborated with top brands like Razorpay, Swiggy, Flipkart, and Kotak. In this episode, we dive into the first stepping stone in designing a head-up display and vehicle experience for Ola scooters, unique challenges of designing for two-wheeler EVs and how did they lead to new features, how he defines design innovation and how much it is needed in today's context, the future of product design function 5 years from now, and advice for designers to maintain continuous growth in their careers. If you are interested in design innovation, scaling design teams, and understanding complexities of EV and fintech design, this episode has you covered with actionable insights and valuable lessons. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube. Your support helps us bring in more insightful conversation with industry leaders. Let's jump in and hear from Agni.
Hey Agni, thanks for joining today. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure too.
Great. Agni, India have seen significant growth of EV scooters from last few years, right? And one of the major contributor in this segment is Ola Electric. But that growth we are seeing today, right? The whole innovation, the manufacturing and the designing part have started very early on. And you were heading the design team there, right? Working on the head-up display and lots of other things in the with your team, of course, right? But there's always been challenge for anyone to understand this kind of a segment to start crafting experiences. What do I mean by that is when you need to work on any problem statement which do not have any benchmark, any guidance or something like that, right? It's slightly difficult to figure out what would be the first step in this process. But having said that, you were done a good job there, and right now people know about the Ola Electric success, right? So help us understand what were the stepping stone in your design process and how you have crafted it in that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first time we actually like went into the Ola Electric team, because of course the first hardware was through a company called as Go. They were already operating. We took that initial full body and then we started working on the software, the internals, battery, etc. Now it's an entirely different machine altogether.
Yeah.
But I think the first time we started was even before any one of us in the team had even ridden an electric vehicle, especially a two-wheeler. And I remember the first time we actually imported the vehicle inside India. We had actually got it uplifted there was a building in Kormangla, which is now the Ola center. We put it on the top of the terrace and we were riding in the terrace back and forth and trying it out with all the prototypes through an Arduino itself. And
okay, so before you even worked on the digital experience, you have actually drove the vehicle to understand the nitty-gritty.
No, so we drove it after we had done the initial few sets. We got the specifications of just the HUD display, but we never knew because I mean the closest that we were designing for with a similar-ish use case was the driver app. And I'll tell you why. I mean, a driver app is usually operated through two ways. One is when the person has the phone in their hand,
Correct.
and then they are actually looking at their earnings, etc. But most of the time, it's a peripheral vision device. Like you would usually be like locking it on your display on your HUD or like somewhere around your steering wheel, and you would not be actively looking at it while things are popping up over there. But that's still supposed to guide you during the
Correct.
Ola. Like the scooter was like much more than that, because
Hmm.
here there is an element of balance, and you
Hmm.
can't look at the screen while you are riding, and you can't see it like very clearly when things are happening. So it has to go to a point wherein it has to be so clear, etc. So of course we tried to learn a lot from the Tesla guidelines that were there, because
Right.
there was nothing present. Like even I think like Aether has started like talking about their design language and system now today. They're also doing a pretty good job. Ola has started
Yeah.
doing it. You can see ads running out. But at that point in time, it was like, hey, if somebody asks you to like design for like let's say a pressure measuring mechanism in a hospital, right? Like,
Hmm.
or like let's say dialysis machine, you would have no clue. You would have to actually go ahead and then see what's happening out over there.
Correct. Correct.
So pretty difficult. I think the one that got launched would probably be like the fifth, sixth version of what we had started off with.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, and we did a lot of experiments. We built out a lot of prototypes of different kinds of things over there. But eventually, like we might think that the only interface that a scooter HUD would be having is like, okay, when you press your accelerator, deaccelerate, brake, etc. But there are a lot of different kinds of experiences also that a today smart vehicle can provide.
Hmm.
I'm happy to talk about. There are a few very good examples, but
Please.
yeah, I mean,
If you can put some lights on the regulations part also, right? The
mm,
reason I'm asking this question because that was very early stage of the EV scooters in India, right? So I believe that the regulation was also not that at that level, right? It was, I guess, shaping up, but not to the freeze structure regulations,
yeah.
right? At that time, what were the thought process to consider those regulations and think about in the future perspective and then basically craft the experience for the same?
I mean, there's no central regulation, I think, even today,
Hmm.
with respect to like let's say other kind of OEMs, which is like Tesla. Yeah. Other kind of OEMs, like let's say in India, you have like Maruti or like let's say much more expensive BMW, etc. I think it's still not regulated because you can still find third parties selling like HUDs and dashboards even today, right? So nobody gives like a check over there on a level wherein something is allowed versus not allowed. So like it's not like as if like a sensor board, right? No
Huh.
interface gets like checked
Check.
by a body and said that this is not supposed to be passed on. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean there was nothing of those sorts, but there was a much more bigger responsibility. Like in a two-wheeler vehicle, one is that you can't touch the screen. You have got a connected, like let's say, input
Hmm.
interface on both of your like scooter handles.
Correct.
Of course, the like when
With
this,
limited buttons only.
yeah, no, while you're riding, that's your only way to interact with the
Correct.
screen. While you're sedentary, that's where you can go ahead and tap on the screen. But again, like
Hmm.
very different kind of interface. Like I mean, at least while I learned design, things had moved into like touch phones, right? We were
Yes.
still not in that BBM era wherein we had to design through like an input interface.
Hmm.
So that was also a little different. Like not basically keeping things in a way wherein your actions could only be moving left or up,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like if there is interactable elements on your screen,
Right.
you can't be expecting it to move like a mouse cursor, right? Like let's
Hmm.
say, and only like you could do like the left screen, left button, right button, up button, etc. And that's a little different from a touch screen, because in a touch screen you could do anything. You could swipe, glide,
Yeah.
etc.
Lots of other interaction than
Yeah,
just a tab.
yeah, constraint, but a more like a healthy constraint.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, first time I think we went through a lot of Tesla like screens and guidelines.
Okay.
Some of them are very helpful. Some of them were not, because Tesla has like a great display. Like at least in the car, it's got a very big HUD. You could control every smallest aspect out of it, and then of course, like the display was powered by a very powerful machine.
Okay.
Initially, when we were there, we did not have a like. now it's great. Like at least the machine is being run by a very high capacity RAM, etc. But earlier it was not, because we were launching the first model out over there. And I mean, of course, like to keep the costs also under like a particular unit, the scooter itself was going under a lakh, right? So
Right.
yeah, so those were the constraints that we were facing. But yeah, I think we prototyped a lot of stuff.
But in that case, you have not exactly benchmarked, but kind of looked it into how four-wheeler Tesla kind of
Yeah,
display works,
yeah,
right? With very high capacity engines behind it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you were need to design the experience for the first version of a scooter in India,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Both are completely different segment altogether.
yeah, yeah,
And at the same time, you may also required to understand the users in the first place, right?
mm-hmm.
Because they were also first time EV riders,
Yeah,
right? In a way.
yeah,
So was there any significant difference between these two experiences that you have faced and took a very unique call in the process?
yeah. The differences were more on like cosmetic stuff, which by which I mean like let's say now if you would look at the Ola scooter, you would find different kinds of accelerometers or
Hmm.
more layers of like what would be the selling point for the scooter, right? Because some of them are very basics.
Right.
Like for example, having a parking mode or having like a reverse mode. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
putting a reverse mode on a scooter was a weird thing for us to even think about, because like in the
Absolutely.
car you have a scooter, you basically turn it out into a rear view mirror, etc.
Correct.
Over here it's very difficult, very different, because one is that you're like, I mean, in today's cars you find that when you're in the reverse mode, your accelerator only gets pedaled to a particular point. Even if
Correct.
you force push it to the maximum, it won't
Hmm.
go to 60 miles per hour.
True.
But at that point in time, like at least we were not aware of every like normal scale, like even car having that dip. There also you would have to like soft push the pedal only.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, the electric scooter had its like full throttle available in the
For you to
reverse.
go to, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so there could be a mistake over there. You
Correct.
would have thought that there is a reverse going on, but in case if it doesn't, you would be expecting the car to go behind and it would throttle to the full like let's say
It will go out of
circumference,
your
and
control.
it'll go in front with like probably 15 miles per hour.
True.
On the other hand, you were just expecting 3-4 miles behind.
Behind, yeah.
So solving all of those problems was also like a very very big challenge. And I mean, we did all of that through like the interface also, a lot of
Hmm.
that through noise, music, etc. also. But uh, a lot of through like let's say um, hardware also. Like for example, we put a check over there wherein even if you throttle the full thing, the first thing that will happen is it'll only allow it to go to 2 miles per hour to a certain distance, and then it'll pick up. So
Right.
at least like that's the first push is going towards the back, and it's a controlled push by the hardware itself.
So the hardware will
Yeah,
basically track what needs to be gone into the
yeah,
engine.
yeah.
Hmm.
Went through all of that stuff a little, and but there were like a few very interesting incidents that I mean usually always talk about is that um like for example, like if the scooter knows that you are parked in a basement where there is not enough light,
Right.
and the scooter basically had a companion app.
Hmm.
So when you walk near the scooter, it knows via Bluetooth connection, and
Hmm.
it'll
Hmm.
unlock the scooter for you. It'll know that it's your phone, so it'll probably just say you hi Tom, etc.
Right.
And like let's say if there are more profiles added to the scooter, and if multiple people keep on coming, it'll activate that particular profile. So for
Hmm.
example, if I have like my younger brother who's like probably 18 years old, uh, and I need him to be geofenced,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And I don't want him to go outside the city, that particular profile will get activated.
Right.
So basically, there were a lot of different features also over there, like a temporary lock, a temporary key, which
Hmm.
means that you could give like a one-time my gate-ish type of like pass to somebody, and you could just
So
go
that
and
they can access it.
yes, for a short period of time.
Hmm.
Then the other thing that I was talking about, the basement thing.
Hmm.
So it knows when you coming near, and in a basement when it's dark and it knows that it's dark. What we did was that it was pretty interesting. We made the headlight remain on for a significant period of time
Okay.
till the connection broke off. Like the scooter
Okay.
got locked, but the headlight will be on just to reflect out light, and like because it's a dark environment, you could use that light to walk your way out of that entire like darker
Correct. Till
basement.
the connection get
Yeah,
off, so
correct.
that you can walk to the place where you
Correct,
want to go.
correct, correct. Either the connection gets lost, or basically after a particular threshold or period of time.
Right.
So that was one thing that we had thought of. And then experiences with respect to like even like when your car is or scooter is getting towed. Like let's say you've gone through some accident and it's being towed. What is that experience that's supposed to come on your phone versus the scooter? What if there is a crash? It knows that it's detected a crash. What should the scooter be giving access to? Like immediately passing on the like just flashing the emergency contact on the screen itself if the screen is still like active or on, or probably knowing that like the emergency contact needs to be like pushed, because you already had those information. Emergency contact is an information that is there in Ola system for a lot of people in India. So yeah, so those were a few extra things that we really got to push. And I don't think that like today, like if you give like a forced assignment saying, "Okay, think of a few interesting use cases for a scooter, electric scooter," right? And that could only be solved via software. Like you don't have to
Don't
go
think about the hardware in that
yeah.
nature.
So thinking about these scenarios, and there were a few fun features also, like the scooter that we had initially, and even now it's a very famous feature only, had like boom boxes of speakers inside it.
Right.
So I think this is a feature that launched after I left. The team did a good job at it. Is so they made a pairing mode between scooters. So if like let's say you are going on a bike trip or a scooter trip, and you end up going to a hill station somewhere, you could camp there if you want to, and you could sync all of these scooters together, and it
Play
could
all the songs
it could
in
be a
sync.
full party scene if you want it to be.
Yeah.
But and another thing that never got launched, because one, that the cost of the hardware also went a little bit higher, was the helmet. We were thinking and prototyping a lot of different things, because when you're riding a scooter, you, unlike what do you call it, like a car, there is a speaker that could be loud enough for you to listen to it because your windows are closed.
True.
Here, because of wind, you can't listen.
Yeah.
So there was supposed to be a Bluetooth connected helmet, which Ether launched. I mean, they launched it with the first set of features. But what we were also thinking and prototyping were more on the lines that at least there could be a projection display on the visor, like at least a left and right, or like let's say how much distance it is, because you won't be able to look down.
Correct.
So along with like a connection on the audio, you're also seeing if there could be something on the visor. But again, all of that stuff would practically push your helmet to like a 30 grand, 40 grandish line only, where
and won't be really adopted by users in India. So
I mean even now the scooter has gone down by price a lot, but it would almost be like 40-50% of the scooter price itself. So nobody would ideally want that to be.
But in this case that you drove down to all the examples, right, which has one foundational disconnect, I would say, right? One is the digital experience of the scooter, and second one is the physical experience of the scooter. Being a designer, it's your job to deliver the consistent experience, irrespective of whichever the medium is, right? In all of these examples that you have given, right, must be entertained couple of challenges, right, to cater to the solution. Right, help us understand, is there any framework or some strategies that you were following, or maybe some best practices that really helped you to cater to those experience which has both digital and physical footprint on it?
No, I mean, to be honest, there was no, like, there's only learnings afterwards. I don't think at that point in time we knew enough about like how to even test it properly, or what to even do. Like, because like of course you could get like a lot of people just test it on ground and give you the feedback. But a lot of these features around the fact that how early should you ideally be calling out, like let's say a left or a right, because there is going to be a flash on the screen that's going to come up like when you're even trying to show directions, or maybe
that may also distract a user.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you have to be mindful about that.
Exactly. So second thing is that like even if you've even seen in like HUDs on cars, there are two of them. One which still holds your speedometer and like let's say like your probably RPM etc. your kilometers, etc., on the front of the here, which you don't usually tend to look, but you actually tend to look at it when you've crossed a particular speed,
Correct.
not naturally at like between 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
So now we had one screen and we have to solve for both of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, do you want like a direction only thing or like a speed only thing? So all of those things we kept on like getting to know as in when we started like testing it, putting it on the ground. Honestly, the version right now that you see on Ola Electric, or even like for that matter Aether, is a much more advanced version from that point in time. Like the prototypes that we had made at that point would probably look a lot different. Like the core JTBD remains the same,
Correct. Correct.
but it is probably going to be very, very different. Um,
It was also a first of its kind.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we had no clue. I mean, it's very similar to, like, for example, if somebody came up and said that you have to design a new like gas stove burner, I would have no clue about it. I would really have no clue about it.
Right.
Or maybe a just an HUD for a gas stove burner, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't
You
know.
even first question that would you even need that or
Yeah,
not, right?
exactly. Because yeah, I mean, honestly, you were riding scooters till now without
Without a
with a
display, why do you
mechanical
even need
display.
it one?
Yeah, with a
Yeah.
mechanical display, and then having like an electric display and all. Everybody will like, fine directions, but it's not just
Mm.
that. There was a small activity where we did, and I think we went too deep into it, but eventually that transformed into a different kind of thing.
Hmm.
Was that there was a small activity wherein we were saying that when you are riding on the map, we were going to show the map on the display,
Right.
and the map usually has a pointer,
Hmm.
right? Usually a triangular pointer which is directing towards a particular one. I mean, we got an idea on a particular day that what if, so the scooter had different riding modes like economy,
Correct.
sports, terrain, and other that kind of stuff. What we were thinking is that what if those kind of like modes could be visually displayed on the map while I'm riding, right? So that actually what we did was that, like, on a normal new, like, let's say economy mode, there's a normal triangle-ish kind of
Yeah.
shape that is usually there. When it went into sports mode, we actually elevated it a little bit, gave it two more wings and put like propellers behind it
With the same visual
with that same
connotation.
like that thing,
Hmm.
basically like a transformer. It changed
Yeah.
and it went out with like a boost, like now it's going with a little bit amount of speed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Although we didn't do that, but that translated into changing the speedometer visuals for all these, like, theming came out of that idea.
Correct. Correct.
And a lot of
That is a
different.
really smart move, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, theming was something that was like a very good marketing. Theming happened after I left. I had no contribution to that
Hmm.
because I left around after 8-10 months of starting of the initial, like, machine, etc. It got launched uh, very much after I left. But I think that was the first instance wherein we thought that why don't we treat things differently on the screen?
Hmm. Hmm.
And not that this idea was like very unique. I think Audi and BMW used to do it in the sports
Right.
mode. They used to change the entire HUD into a red and golden mode, or
Hmm.
like the entire visuals used to change up on the HUD, and you would feel as if
And also, I guess lining in your interior also changes its
yes,
color that
yes,
way.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we were observing a lot of cars at that point in time. Like we were
Hmm.
really observing interiors, exteriors.
Hmm.
That is what like sparked a few of those ideas, I think. But I think that's a natural way whenever you're trying to do something new. You keep on observing and then trying to be greedy about being able to know everything in that domain as much as getting exposed out in front of or getting flashed in front of you through social media, trying to go into expose or like looking like just entering into like we were doing that during that point in time, like trying to
Yeah.
enter into like at that point in time Kia was the only one which had like a electric vehicle, like good interior electric vehicle at that point in time.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
we entered there and then we were trying to look into that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we had a playbook. It now that you think of it, I will have to really sit down and then construct my way out of forming an answer, but there wasn't one.
Makes sense. But you brought out one interesting point about the ideation, right? Even though we just casually say that, we have done this thing, you have done this thing, and the team have
Hmm.
come up with these ideas and all, right? But right now, if we see, those were the innovations that played out earlier, so that we are now seeing the expansion or the growth stage of those features, right? Uh, but right now, if you see, there are lots of I don't want to precisely name couple of players, but there are few even digital products out there who are using e-commerce and catering to just a different market and saying that it's innovation. For me personally, it's not, because you are just replicating it and catering to a different market, right? That's not a big difference at all. When you talk about the new idea, right, it's not even exist today, right? That's what you are working on. So from your perspective, I have definitely driven this example via business angle, right? But from a design, it's a different thing that we talk about. So help us understand from design standpoint, what do you consider as a innovation?
If you have to break down innovation into, like, I'll use two different words, right? And it'll get very clearly broken down. So if your degree of iteration, right, like if you're iterating on a product constantly, you would end up with a very different solution at the end, right?
True, yeah.
But if you're just altering your product, you would probably be solving the same problem in the end.
Correct,
By
yes.
that I mean that, and let me give you a different kind of example, I think. So have you seen those earlier day cans which had like baked beans, etc., over there, like sealed tin cans?
Correct, yeah.
There used to be a product which was called as can cutter before,
Right, yes.
and eventually there were continuously a lot of can cutter innovation happening, that how can I build an easier can cutter wherein I can just
Yeah.
place on one and then hold one was basically moving the entire machine,
Correct.
the tin can, one was the actual thing. But I think, so that is basically altering the outcome, the solution part of it. But somebody would have gone back and thought about the fact that, okay, fine, the problem is not making a better can cutter. The problem is to open the can better.
Correct.
And I think at that point in time, somebody would have thought about that, like that flip thing, which is now
Correct.
like a sensation. Like it's also there in like cold drink
It's like a
cans.
mainstream now.
It's a mainstream thing right now. So there somebody went ahead and thought about the problem. Right. So whenever you talk about innovation in design, I think at this stage, of course, like even when you look at AI, or even when you look at like the first basic thing that comes out of everybody is probably an alteration of, or like an inspired thing or a mixture of things that comes in. Only when you think about like the e-commerce example that you gave, right? Like now if somebody wants to sit down and say that I want to build an e-commerce by using all the information that is already there, like I have shopped for like 10 years now. I don't want to go to the app and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Other than the anomalies that I might have here and there. That would be a different experience. That would not be a like like a like a plus version of like an app
Existing app.
A, an app, or an app B, right? And honestly, like I'm working and I have worked with a lot of like companies and teams in India. It's very sad to say that very few of them are actually innovating. There there is not a lot of room, or like let's say playing ground, and you could talk about that in any sector. I've also been very excited about edtech at a point, and I've tried my hands at a few problem statements in India. I've tried my problem statement in fintech, but other than like let's say the cosmetic look and feel, or like let's say what it does, there's usually very little room that's left for you to go back and then be like a little happy scared when you're going back home, or like let's say like trying to like like being anxious about trying to find an answer from anything that you're seeing around you. If there is a problem that you're not able to solve, right? For example, somebody would have given you a space problem, saying that, hey, you know what, like, for example, whatever, like, and we used to give this problem a lot during like problem statements for like interviews and all, that usually like halls, etc., have like a seating arrangement wherein people are usually not overlapping one with the other. But what if there was like multi-layered seating? How would you show it on a 2D interface? Right. So that would make you stop for once and then think, right? Like, okay, fine.
Correct.
How do I do this? Like, and then of course, solution is there out right now, that you would have like a layer panel on the right, which would help you move between multiple layers on the same panel. The solution is fine, but again, right, like you have to be challenged with a different problem. I think
Hmm.
most of the times we're just trying to figure out more and more solutions and not going back that what did I eventually end up or start off with. Like there was a problem that I wanted to start off with, can I interpret the question only differently?
Correct, correct.
So
Is it fair to say that the defined process for different milestone towards the solution is always remains same across the companies?
where it's very traditional. I mean you'll have to stop, you'll have to reflect
Hmm.
for you to like probably produce another, I don't know, like a different thing altogether, which usually companies or businesses don't have the time to do that
Yeah.
or the budget to do that. Like outside in Silicon Valley, they're pushing in that much amount of like money and time and investing in over there, wherein there is a group wherein they're allowed or left to just like play around,
Hmm.
which is there in a few companies in India also. I wouldn't agree that it's not there. Even we had started something in Ola called as, and a lot of companies would have like that labs thing, right? Wherein
Correct.
ABC Lab, Ola Labs, etc., where they're trying to produce something new or different. But
Hmm.
yeah, so out of those, like initiatives, you would find something new coming out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think every designer should at least strive to do
Touch
what
on to those areas where
once
the
in 5 years. Like you
huh.
should do that. Like
Hmm.
one product in 5 years, which would have made you feel a little uncomfortable.
Correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct. Makes sense, Agni. So help us understand the different set of the design process, the team execution side of things, right? You have been a leader managing a good amount of people in your team also, right? How do you see the design function will be executing in a big products in India down the line of, let's say, 5 or 10 years from now?
Yeah, we've actually ended up like even now and even for the last 1 or 2 years, right? Like us being the design partners for any problem statement, we've actually ended up designing lesser.
Hmm.
That means that we're ending up doing much more functions around it, like more basic prototyping, which is testable,
Hmm.
or like let's say trying to like do usability testing around it, or even trying to figure out the next set of features, or doing like let's say a thorough comparative analysis with like let's say somebody trying to use like you can like there are products currently as of now wherein you can also have AI users.
Right.
So even doing a first check with them
Hmm.
of how that's being like how the screen is being perceived, what are you looking at the first thing, etc., etc.,
Hmm.
gives you a good benchmark to then go and do a more human check, right? So I
Right.
think most of our functions right now, especially in like illustration, brand, etc., we are ending up using a lot of AI.
Hmm.
Like let's say even if there's an illustration kit that used to be a problem statement earlier, we
Definitely.
like get like the first 10 um, problems, or like let's say the first 10 like shots or spots out,
Hmm.
and then train it, and then it'll start like producing
Crafting
out.
out whatever
Yeah.
you want on
Yes.
top. Yeah.
So all of those things are happening, and I think I don't know. I think I am in no um like I think I have got no power or overview or oversight of what's going to happen. Like I think nobody has that at this point in time.
Hmm.
Things are changing so much. This question like 5 years before would have like a more solid, like let's say, take. I would have a different solid take on it. But
Hmm.
currently I don't know. Like if you ask me, the answers could go into a very extreme end. I would say ki probably this function would dissolve and become a little bit more problem solver based, right? Wherein
Hmm.
producing designs or the final thing will not be a problem
Mm,
anymore. The
of
craft is
course.
probably going to get like, of course, like whenever you're trying to um and that's true even today. Like even if you look at like for example architects, right?
Hmm.
There's still somebody who built the burj, but there is still somebody who does like a DLF apartment. There's still somebody who does like a normal standalone building,
Correct.
right? Who are going to get replaced? People who are doing like eventually normal standalone buildings, then DLF, and then probably somebody who does like an AI which does like a burj, right? So
Hmm.
there is going to be uh like the degree of uniqueness in a particular person is going to be probably the demand that he'll have.
Hmm.
uh but yeah, I mean, there could, when I was saying like what could happen, that the function could dissolve, there could be lesser like smaller teams, which again I have hope on the fact that even if the teams are smaller, ideas will be much more. Like
Much more faster
no, by
also.
that I mean that, like, let's say um, there are 5 shopping apps in India right now.
Hmm.
5 have 50 member design teams, for example.
In total.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Tomorrow there'll be 100 with 10 member design teams,
Hmm.
because nobody would stop you from producing a different micro app
Correct.
for a small community, or for like with a different kind of like
That's
membership.
true even today.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
more opportunities are going to probably pop up, but those opportunities are going to be made for, like, let's say if a 50 member team could be replaced with 10 member, a person is operating at a 5x.
Correct.
That means that somebody who knows how to operate with that will be the ones who will sustain.
So is it fair to say that opportunities will be more than today?
Yeah, but eligibility will be higher and lesser.
Of course. And I also have a personal thought on the same, that uh, moving onwards, people will have their skill sets, and along with that, people will ask for their AI agents tech also.
Mm.
Because not everything you will be doing on your own. Moving
Mm-hmm.
onwards, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
not today. Because as you rightly mentioned, right, about the graphical stuff, right, you will need to have some sort of your trained agent model.
Mm.
For your design system, let's say, you need to have your trained agent model. For your crafting out your define wireframe sort of a thing, you will need to have some sort of agent model,
Mm.
right? So along with your skill set, you will require to have your defined agent models that you will work with, and
Yeah.
then carry out your work
Yeah. Yeah.
onwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even now, I think a lot of people, even in our team or even before that, like, I mean, they be probably starting off or maybe using AI a lot across their entire day. Like,
Hmm.
um, I think every call currently at this point in time is being recorded and then just being made into the transcript is being converted into like notes.
Yeah.
And then even if it's like, let's say it's a call for, like, let's say taking a requirement for a particular thing, or like, let's say taking feedback,
Hmm.
you you sh- th- it's it's inevitable, and like it's going to be very obvious that people are going to end up just putting it in their workflow.
Right.
And
Right.
maybe there are a lot of tools right now which are like you have to juggle around. Later it's going to be like a centralized thing which is going to probably be the brain on your computer. I could talk
Hmm.
to multiple different apps with like by basically switching models and contexts.
Hmm.
Fine, like look at it and then give me design feedback, look at it and talk to me about, like, just like break down the portfolio. um, because if, like, let's say there is something which is able to observe my laptop screen for like months and what I'm doing, there will come a point where it should be able to do it for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah.
But having said that, will that be the case in the future where there won't be even a designer? Because there are also AI agent models who are helping product managers or even higher stakeholders to brainstorm on the solutioning part, understanding the problems in very depth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then catering out to a solution which is backed by your design system also.
Mm.
So if we see the traditional function of any designer today out there, some or the other way, it will get automated by each different step separately.
Mm.
So will that be the case that designers will not be required anymore in the future?
I mean, you can call them as designers. I think problem solvers is something that will get emerged out.
Huh.
But even if you look at a problem statement, right? Um, and if you're expecting AI to do that problem statement
Hmm.
to most of the extent, like let's say we reach a point wherein AI is able to do 90% of our work,
Hmm.
right? The 10% that is going to be left out is not going to be silly mistake. It's going to be something that the AI couldn't do,
Hmm.
something that is on which it has not been trained on, or something that it overlooked.
Okay, so that will be always a space for 10%.
Yeah. And figuring out that 10% is going to be the most crucial or valuable. That 10% could be taste.
Hmm.
That 10% could be looking at a problem statement in a different manner.
Hmm.
That 10% could be seeing something like fall through a crack and not being able to look at it. Or that 10% could be interpreting a particular problem statement in a different manner. Or
Hmm.
that 10% could be a wild bet, right?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of those things probably is somewhere wherein like you will be putting in that like human place to it. But again, you will maybe if we ask this question after 5 years, that is our state. After 5 years, again, that will also get bridged out, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a race towards like 99.99% only. But while the time, whatever time we have, we're just trying to train it better and better to do more mundane tasks for us. Like
right.
you tell, right? Like 10 years before, or like let's say even 5 years before, the interest with which you used to design even a music app
Hmm.
versus what you would be designing today would be different, right?
Definitely.
So today a music app is a boring problem statement to you
Hmm.
unless you're doing something crazy,
Yeah.
which an AI can't produce,
Hmm.
right? So that is the point. Like only when you so now you feel okay, fine, a music app is a smaller problem in my life. I don't care if I am liking to build a music app or not. It's
Hmm.
going to be very similar for the function also. I believe later that I don't want to create design systems. I don't want to
Correct.
go ahead and do QA,
Hmm.
especially during during building any kind of product. The major problem comes during junction of two functions,
Hmm.
which is like from product to product design, from design to engineering,
Hmm.
because that's where the translation happens, right? All of that will get merged out eventually later, hopefully,
Yeah.
if one of the functions start to learn the other people. Like for example, people are learning v0 and other stuff today and are able to produce like good prototypes, right?
Absolutely.
So you will just see like 1,000 more beautifully designed calculators because
Correct.
people just tried that as a first project, but then now those will be well designed, those will be well functioning.
Hmm.
But again, will that feed stomachs? No. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
so for that to happen, I think that 10%, whatever is left, right, you will have to become that 10% wherein you're able to more than design, basically look past whatever you can see or direct
Hmm. Hmm.
like a designer. I think directors are going to become a little bit more important.
Correct. Correct.
You would eventually have like a swarm or bot or like an army of bots with whom you'll be able to talk and then just brainstorm and produce out a lot of work.
Hmm.
But yeah, even for that, even for that, I think you need vocabulary
Correct. Correct.
uh, for it to do. Like for example, we were also going through this problem statement recently that there's a small ad that we were looking at, right? And
Hmm.
in that ad only, there were a few visuals.
Hmm.
Now everybody knows that there is runway. Everybody knows that there are multiple different, there's like visual electric and multiple different things coming in.
Right.
You won't have the vocabulary, I won't have the vocabulary to go ahead and say that a shot with XYZ aperture and using this lens
Hmm.
being shot at this angle at this hour of the day.
Hmm. At this place or
So you won't
something.
have the vocabulary to do that.
Correct.
Photographers would have the vocabulary to do that. So
Correct.
essentially, these tools are being built for people who know to use it as a catalyst for them.
Hmm.
For me, for like video generation tool is inert to me. It won't catalyze my process because I don't
Correct.
know about it enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
Of course, the basic generic ones can be done, but if somebody wants good work, right? Like if
Yeah.
like let's say if a Volkswagen is coming up and saying that I want an ad and I don't want to hire humans,
Hmm.
like I
Hmm.
don't want anybody in front of the camera.
Correct.
That is something that a like a normal person wouldn't be able to do. Same goes for design, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. You also brought out one interesting point here, saying that 10 years back there were different roles. One was visual designer, second was experienced designer. Even in that era, we used to design things on the Photoshop
Hmm.
and trying to call it as a pixel perfect
Yeah.
UI we need to create. Fast forward today, we only have product designers in companies
Mm.
who does research, who does experience design on wireframes, who also does the visual design at the end.
Mm.
So that role also emerged so fast to the point that three roles are combined together today.
Yeah.
So that maybe led to a future where the role will be also changed from product designer to something else
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
with this agentic idea in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Agni, help us understand if someone is thinking to start their career today, or maybe they are in the very early stage of the career, for the continuous growth in their design career. what they should look at always.
Absorbing and bouncing back, like, which means that, like, there should be enough sources for you to absorb from, which I believe today could also be an AI agent.
Right.
But again, I'm not super sure that will you be able to uh like get the most. Again, I don't know. I mean, I could answer it saying that that no, if you consider an AI bot as your like your design teacher, can you
Hmm.
learn design? Yes. But then again, if you had to do that in real life, you are supposed to probably work with real people, so
Right.
that will be the gap, that will be the major gap. Like, initially you would have learned great design, but it won't go out to your actual users.
Hmm.
So early on, I think, in the career, the one of the most important things should be to know what you're designing,
Hmm.
and that can't just be known by you looking at your designs only, or just like presenting it to somebody who wouldn't have an opinion about it.
Hmm.
So very, very important for again, like, it's very easy to earn money now if you want to like jump like jobs, or like let's say just do a lot of like random ass like smaller gigs here and there.
Right.
But uh like for me, that helped a lot. Um like
To staying at the foundation of the
yeah,
problem statement.
yeah, I mean, I had like great teachers in the earlier stages. Like, even in college, when I learned, that I had a few seniors who taught me very well.
Hmm.
I came out, and then I was in Ola for a significant amount of time. Sunit sir helped me, like, just like open and then look at things in a very different way, question things in a different way. I
Right.
learned most of my foundational design from him. And I don't think I would have learned that just freelancing, or like, let's say, just by being in a company where there was no product, like, let's say.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing product with a particular thing in mind. Like, if you have designer seniors in the company, great, but you could also do well with good product leaders also.
Correct.
So in the end, it's problem solving. Being with good designer leaders, you would be ending up solving and building a good polished product.
Hmm.
But having good product leaders will also help you do that. Just like build a good product. Maybe it's not polished enough, you won't have that
Yeah.
skills to like do a lot of jing bang animation and then like something that blows your mind. But
It's not functional. It's not worth it.
yes, yes. So that I think is very, very important, which I think a lot of like designers even today,
Hmm.
when we are talking with a few folks out over there, lack a lot. Like, you'll find them, there's a lot of controversy going on in Twitter right now also. Again, I don't believe in any of that strongly, but a few of those interactions that I've had is that people were usually very interview ready. You can't detect, or you can't get to know that how much of it is,
Real.
how deep is their sentences coming out of, or like, let's say, how deep is their coming out of. Even I'm not taught well in design. Like, even I would get like taken aback, or a little bit like, uncomfortable if people start using like random terms about like empathy mapping and all that stuff. I don't understand all of that stuff, but I know what the process is, right? In some way or
Hmm.
the other. I have never termed it and then put it as
Used
like,
it for the sake of
yeah,
it.
my
Yeah.
documents never, the analysis documents never had that empathy mapping results. No, I never did that. Like, like drivers Hyderabad analysis report, that is what it was called, because
Right.
that's the most natural way to explain it, and that had everything that we asked about it.
Hmm.
um so yeah, that is something that you should definitely know, that um like, whatever I'm designing, am I getting better? You need an environment for that. That will help a
Hmm.
lot. I mean, help me a lot staying at Ola,
Hmm.
and then having like a good team wherein we got a lot of like reflection, we got a lot of testing done. We had like that entire um, activity where we actually um, like went across India and spoke with drivers and got to know so much. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
then, like, then it actually felt that the app was the smallest part. The app design, we went out because we want to redesign the app, but the app design was the smallest of part. Of course, we did whatever we could to solve those challenges in that, like, app, whatever we could. But yeah, so
I often give this example to my team also, that if you go to irctc.com, it's not the only product that they care about.
mm,
the entire system is running behind so that they can book a ticket on this product is what they need to take care of.
Yeah,
So you need to understand the system first, then and only you'll be able to craft the right product for this system.
yeah. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
designers also think that just your hours on Figma is probably the outcome, but it is actually not. If you're not doing it, somebody in the system is doing it for you. That's why something is working.
Correct.
Yeah.
Rightly put. Yeah. Great. For you guys, if you have any questions or queries that we haven't covered in this conversation, let us know in the comment section below and we'll get it answered by Agni. And yeah, Agni, thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thanks. Our main goal with this podcast is to bring insightful conversation to help you grow in your career by inviting leaders who are driving impact at scale. If you find this episode useful, make sure you subscribe because that only helps us to invite incredible guests for the future episodes. And in case you have any suggestions about who we should invite and what all topic we should cover, let us know in the comment section below. We are always listening to make sure we deliver exactly what you are looking for.